Hi guys, this is BAWLER and I have news for you. Please subscribe to my channel. Russia has no realistic path to victory in its war against Ukraine. That's not just opinion. It's the conclusion reached by Sir Richard Dearlove, the former chief of Britain's Secret Intelligence Service. This is a man whose entire career has been devoted to analyzing conflicts, authoritarian regimes, and the minds of those who launch wars. Now, 3 years into Russia's brutal invasion, Dearlove asserts that Putin's military apparatus is irreparably broken. His statements are not just provocative, they are rooted in verifiable evidence. With rising casualties, rapidly dwindling financial reserves, faltering offensives, and deteriorating morale, Dearlove warns that Moscow is running out of viable options and fast. But who exactly is making such a scathing judgment? Let's take a closer look. Sir Richard Dearlove is a seasoned British intelligence veteran. He joined MI6 in 1966 and held assignments across the globe in Kenya, France, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic, climbing steadily through the ranks. In 1991, he led the MI6 station in Washington, then became Director of Personnel and Administration in 1993, followed by Director of Operations in 1994. His highest appointment came in 1999 when he was named Chief of MI6, a role he held for 5 years. He oversaw operations during the 9/11 attacks and the subsequent Iraq invasion. After retiring from MI6 in 2005, he transitioned to academia and public commentary, becoming a university administrator, speaker, author, and political analyst. In essence, Dearlove is someone with an extraordinary understanding of international affairs and military intelligence. When he speaks, people listen. In a recent appearance on Sky News The World, he issued a dire assessment of the Russian invasion. When host Gillian Joseph asked whether he shared European leaders' concerns that President Donald Trump might rush into a ceasefire deal that favors Moscow, Dearlove didn't hesitate. He affirmed the concern, calling such an outcome poor for Europe. He voiced particular worry over Steve Witkoff, Trump's negotiator, who, according to Dearlove, has been amplifying Kremlin-friendly narratives. Dearlove cautioned that the worst deal would be a premature ceasefire where Ukraine is pressured to accept terms without meaningful concessions from Putin. In his view, Putin's strategy lacks a reverse gear. He's still demanding maximum gains. For Dearlove, the correct course is continued, unwavering support for Ukraine, rather than any rushed negotiation that grants the Kremlin a win. Why? Because Russia, he argues, is currently not in a strong position. If negotiations began now, it would favor Moscow. Putin could spin the deal as a grand victory, possibly cementing control over Ukrainian territory and selling the narrative at home that the war was a historic success, reinforcing his image as Russia's greatest leader. Such an outcome, Dearlove warns, would have severe repercussions for Europe's long-term security. If Putin is allowed to claim victory, it sets a dangerous precedent, raising questions about future threats to European borders. There are real fears that Russia could expand aggression toward the Baltics or even NATO states like Finland or Poland via Belarus. Dearlove suggests that unless Russia is thoroughly weakened before talks begin, it may regroup and target further invasions. A ceasefire favorable to Ukraine, on the other hand, could sap Russia's momentum and deter future aggression. He believes this is not the time for de-escalation, but rather for ramped-up support to drive Russia into strategic crisis. When asked if a ceasefire is in Russia's interest, Dearlove replied that the Kremlin might desperately need one, perhaps more than Putin himself realizes. He described the war as a catastrophe, not just for Russia's military, but for the kleptocratic elite surrounding Putin. Their expectations have not been met. Economic and financial difficulties are mounting. Russian military capacity is declining. With worsening morale, ammo shortages, and dwindling equipment, these aren't empty claims. Data shows 2024 was Russia's deadliest year in the war, with over 45,000 confirmed fatalities, nearly triple the toll from 2022 and surpassing 2023 as well. Deaths rose each month, and estimates suggest roughly 27 Russian soldiers died for every square kilometer gained, an extremely costly ratio. To date, more than 106,000 Russian soldiers have been confirmed dead, though some estimates place the actual figure above 230,000. Russia has turned to desperate recruitment tactics, offering up to $40,000 to volunteers and forcibly conscripting young men. In early 2025, Putin mobilized 160,000 men aged 18-30, aiming to grow the army to 1.5 million. Meanwhile, reports indicate morale continues to erode. Admiral Tony Radakin, head of the British Armed Forces, noted discontent across all levels of Russia's military, from junior ranks to senior commanders. Ukrainian forces have even seized documents highlighting morale problems. including cases of suicide, psychological distress, and efforts to force-feed troops Russian state propaganda to maintain mental stability. Dearlove's comments on Russia's shrinking cash reserves are supported by economists like Anders Aslund, who predicts Russia could burn through its national wealth fund by autumn 2025. The most urgent problem is budgetary. With no more liquid reserves, Russia will face cuts, price controls, and rationing, hallmarks of the Soviet past. Sanctions and internal weaknesses have shrunk Russia's foreign debt from $729 billion in 2023 to $293 billion in late 2024. Yet it's spending heavily. Over $130 billion is allocated to defense in 2025. But its reserves dropped from $117 billion in 2021 to $31 billion by the end of 2024. Despite Putin's rhetoric about a strong economy, the facts indicate stagflation, a toxic mix of high inflation and low growth. Military hardware is also running low. Estimates from Ukrainian sources say that Russia lost nearly 3,700 tanks, 9,000 IFVs, 13,000 artillery systems, and 400 air defense units in 2024 alone. More conservative estimates from the IISS cut those numbers roughly in half, but still indicate heavy losses. Even though Russia's total armored vehicle count exceeds 130,000, much of it is outdated. Roughly 85% of the vehicles deployed are from Soviet-era stockpiles, now rapidly dwindling. Satellite images confirm that in some depots, over 40% of stored vehicles have been pulled into service, many in poor condition. Worse, Russia can't produce or refurbish tanks fast enough to match its losses. According to German researcher Nikolai Mitrokin, current loss rates mean armored vehicle reserves could run dry within months. Lieutenant General Ihor Romanenko of Ukraine's armed forces estimates Russia's supplies could last up to 2 years, but either way, the ratio of modern vehicles is falling. Experts like Pavel Luzin believe Russia can produce just 60 new tanks annually, not nearly enough for a sustained war. With mounting losses in finances, manpower, and equipment, and a deteriorating outlook for 2025, the conclusion is clear. Russia is losing this war and facing overwhelming challenges. As Dearlove put it, Russian offensives have slowed dramatically. At the current pace, it would take them 80 years to conquer Ukraine. In short, Russia lacks the capacity to mount a decisive breakthrough. Advances are minimal, and the front lines are essentially frozen. That 80-year projection is jarring and will surely cause alarm in Moscow. Russia once believed it could reach Kyiv in days. Soldiers reportedly packed parade uniforms, anticipating swift victory and celebrations. But they didn't expect fierce Ukrainian resistance, nor a war that would drag on for years. Now, despite all the bloodshed, Russia controls just over 27,000 square miles of Ukrainian land, 12% of the country, or 19% when including Crimea and parts of Donbas. It's significant, but far less than Putin had envisioned. If Dearlove's prediction is accurate, a real Russian victory wouldn't come for decades, likely long after Putin's death, given that he's already 72. So, what does Dearlove advise Ukraine and its allies to do? He suggests maintaining pressure to drive Russia closer to collapse. Continued Ukrainian resistance and tactical victories will eventually tilt the war in Kyiv's favor. When Russia is weak enough, morally, economically, militarily, a negotiated peace could emerge with Ukraine in a stronger position. That may involve Russia withdrawing and returning occupied territory. Such a scenario would mark a huge blow to Putin's regime and deter future military aggression. Dearlove's reasoning is sound and well supported. Despite some territorial gains, Russia's progress has been painfully slow and costly. With international backing, Ukraine shows no signs of surrender. It will continue to resist, aiming to make every Russian advance as costly and unsustainable as possible. And the toll will keep mounting on soldiers, on machines, and on Moscow's ambitions. So what do you think? Is Sir Richard Dearlove right that now is not the time for a ceasefire? Could it really take Russia 80 years to win this war? And what should Ukraine's allies do next? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.